welcome back to the workshop. So this is about my fourth time trying to start this video, and the last two times is because the cat decided she was going to join me in the garage and was meowing the entire time I was here. Anyway, so today I wanted to go over the new printer, but I thought I would talk about this original printer and why I've gone away from this design. So this printer was based off of kind of my original printer, but I scaled it up a fair bit. So my original printer just had a single bed. So this one I doubled up the bed, got me a little more capacity. I also originally had these bars set at the same spacing. I found that, especially with this big bed moving back and forth, it tended to want to drag, push and pull the nozzle. And because they were so close together, it would actually dig the nozzle in and cause a lot of issues. I've also beefed up the stepper motors on some of the later ones, trying to help deal with that layer shift issue, specifically in the Y direction. Other things, I've also removed the drag chains on later ones. These flexible bundles have proven to be a lot more robust than these drag chains, just because the flexing on the wire kind of in the same spot is just really hard on them. Unfortunately, this one, it's such a short printer, it's kind of hard to do the loose bundles. But what this printer was originally designed to do was do casting patterns. That's why this kind of line got referred to as the Foundry Special. And then I have a couple like print farm versions of it that are just again a single bed, but this whole chassis is a lot more rigid than my original frames, so I can run them fairly hard and have a really nice print quality. I've also changed out the entire extruder system from what it originally was, and keep beating on the design until it got better. And I think there is still a place for a printer of this rough form factor. However, I'm probably going to have to just completely scrap the gantry and whatnot, because I've kind of had a rethought of how my entire design process, everything. So yeah, one like this will probably never be built again. And actually the very last one that I put together, it's not as consistent as I was hoping for. So I'm actually I've talked with the owner, who's a friend of mine, and we're going to convert his to the next generation printer, because I think overall the next gen's going to just be a better printer for him in the long run. But anyway, so without further ado, let's switch over to the other spot. Alright, so here is the new printer. I'm still doing the performance testing on it, making sure that everything behaves as expected. It's gone away from the rotary dial over to a touchscreen, and I'm not sure if I'm going to keep using this touchscreen. There's a newer one out that actually has a dial on it as well, so you can touchscreen or dial, which might be kind of nice to have both options. One of the big changes for this one, well, the obvious change, this bed no longer moves. It just moves up vertically. I've also been able to kind of condense the footprint. And I've swapped from the 12 volt power supply up to a 24 volt power supply, which was a requirement for this particular bed. But it also gives you the benefits of much stronger stepper motors. I mean, they're literally the same stepper motors, but you run them at a higher voltage and they just behave better. They're a lot more powerful. One of the biggest changes is now the spool is actually integrated. It just has rollers that sits in here, and I think the later incarnations I'm actually going to flip the spool onto this other side, because of the nozzle offset, I actually need to scooch the bed over just a little bit, and once I do that, there won't be enough physical room for the spool to fit. Fortunately, on this display, it actually has the option to do a load-unload, which makes this system work a lot better. I'm not going to do that right now because I was going to do a start up a print so you guys see how that goes. Anyway, the control panel is pretty straightforward. Just has a little snap over cover. Everything in here is low volt. It's just 24 volts, so you know you're not running the risk of getting electrocuted by having the panel open at all. All the high voltage stuff is actually contained within the power supply shroud. So this hot end is actually the E3D Titan Arrow. It's been out for a few years now. Been proven, you know, the original ones were a little dodgy, but then they very quickly retooled and fixed all their issues. So, you know, there's a number of manufacturers that actually use this stock hot end. I coupled it with a pancake stepper and whatnot. This entire extruder assembly was originally, or, you know, this mount and everything else is actually set up for the replacement for this, which is a dual drive, so it grabs on both sides of the filament, much like the Bondtech that I have on the other printer. But they were able to take all this gear train and integrate it into the front face of the stepper motor, so it's all one integrated unit. And this, like I said, this mount was designed for that hot end. Unfortunately, due to global pandemics and things of that nature and factories shutting down, I had to improvise, and this hot end was close enough in physical size that I was able to, you know, I just added an adapter plate and, you know, made a different fan solution than what I was originally planning. So hopefully the next one will be a little bit more shallow and give me some more travel that I don't have on this one because it's just a little bit bulkier. That being said, the X and the Y motion is now controlled off of these rods here. So, you know, it just pulls back and forth. And I kind of did a similar system on my big jumbo printer where, you know, the bed was fixed and the extruder moved. And the really nice thing about this setup is, as you're doing big or fairly large prints, your moving mass stays exactly the same. This hot end weighs the same, so if it works good at 1 inch, it's going to work good at 12 inches. So, you know, vertical height. And you're not, you know, the bundle here, it just has to be long enough to reach all 4 corners, no more, no less. It's not like my other ones where it's got to reach all the way down to the very bottom of the travel and then have to come up and move back and forth. It's just quite a bit more movement. One of the other features that this one has is actually it has a leveling function. So, and this is one that's not configured correctly for this printer. It basically does a default of a 220 by 220 bed. So when I hit the points, it homes out and then moves up, and actually it's like an assisted leveling. So I need to figure out how to adjust the firmware in the controller so it knows how big of a bed, so it actually puts the correct points for the assisted leveling. Has all the normal controls. So you want to go print and let's see, page down. Let's see, we're going to do that one. So that's literally how easy it is to start a print with this new display. Now, something I haven't discussed until now is actually this bed. So it's a 24 volt bed, which again was why I had to switch to the 24 volt power supply. But it is heated area of 300 by 300. Physical space is 310 by 310. And some of the minor revisions in this printer, I need to, I think I can get a little bit more capacity. Because as it is now, I can do the build area, but I can't get the nozzle all the way to the edge of the bed. That'd be nice to be able to actually get just that little extra capacity. But anywho, so yeah, 300 by 300. And the reason for this bed versus doing one of those single beds or one of the big double beds is when you step up to the big double bed like I did on the previous on the big Foundry, by the time you get to the far edge of that bed, you know, if you're run full length on that thing, it's really hard to keep your parts from warping. You know, especially with the bed moving back and forth, because you have basically uncontrolled airflow running over it as it's just doing its normal cycle. Whereas this one being all enclosed is going to be a lot better for that. So it's kind of, this bed in a lot of ways is a compromise. It is enough, you know, big enough that you can do pretty much everything you ever wanted to do on a printer, but not so big that if you fill it to its capacity, it's going to fight you the entire time. Like I said, I have my jumbo printer is a 440 by 440, and that one, it's finally settled out where I can use the full bed, but it's not one that I would ever reproduce because it is so hard to get it dialed in just perfect. Whereas this should be a lot easier to dial in. I'm just going to let the camera roll for a minute. So we're heating up, about to start a print, but I thought what I'd do is just let you see it do its home cycle and then actually get up and start printing. So while this is running, this was actually the very first print that came off this printer. You know, just a normal 3D benchy. And I've worked with the Titan Arrows before, so I was able to dial in the retraction pretty close. And overall, this is one of the cleaner benchies that I've done. I got a little bit of artifacting because I think the bearings are a little bit tight still. But things like this overhang, which is usually pretty tricky, came out really nice and clean all the way up. And I did some other prints dialing in, like the fan shroud design and whatnot, so it's gotten even better. But this one came off the printer this morning. This was this morning, and this is actually the part we just started. And it's designed where it actually, it's a threaded barrel. And I've done these on my other printers, but getting them where they're this loose, basically right out of the gate, is just amazing. I'm really kind of blown away by how well this actually fits. Because normally what you'd have to do is walk them in 1/8 of a turn, back them off, and just keep rocking them back and forth to loosen up the threads. But I can basically go almost to the full seat, just as it is. But overall, like I said, I'm really, really happy with the the consistency and the overall print quality. Still got a little bit of ghosting around these sharp edges, but even much more expensive printers still do that, so I'm not feeling that bad. And this being a Titan Aero for the extruder, it's a direct drive, so I don't have some of the tuning issues associated with like a regular Bowden setup. Yeah, so overall I'm really happy with the design. There's a few things that are going to get changed. Like I said, the bed offset's going to need to be a little different. Probably going to end up flipping the spool and the power supply. Pretty happy with this control box, though I might tweak it a little bit. You know, if I end up changing displays, that'll probably definitely be a change. Things I don't like at the moment, I do not like this fan is quite noisy, so that might be something I need to look into, or I'm just going to have to live with it. I could possibly put a little shroud over it just to divert it down, and that'll also help with the noise abatement a little bit. As I said, overall this printer's a little noisier than I would like it to be. Other things, this frame is 3/4 inch. I'm looking into possibly start doing these frames at a 1/2 inch. Especially with this box design, it's way more rigid than it needs to be. But this one's just really, really heavy to pick up. It's the better part of a sheet of plywood in the frame. So I kind of want to get away from that, get it where it's a little lighter. Though that being said, it being heavy, even if you're moving the extruder quickly, it's going to be able to absorb that movement because of the sheer mass of it. And basically, you could run this printer off of a very default setting in the slicer. The only thing that I really changed was I bumped up the amount that it feeds out when it first starts up. Find that works a little more consistently. I also told it to, when it finishes the print, it homes the bed back down, which is just a few keystrokes in the NG code. Cat, you're not being helpful. What are you doing? So, anyway, I'm gonna go wrap this video up, and we'll catch you next time. Like I said, this is prototype basically finished. There are a couple little things I need to do. Definitely need to clean it. It's all covered in sawdust at the moment, but it works for testing like it is now. So anyway, thanks for watching. And of course the cat's gonna come here and pester me. What are you doing? I'm busy. You're being a pest. I'm gonna boot you from the garage. This is what I have to deal with on a regular basis. Pretty much every time I come out to the garage, she comes and follows.